The rand soared to a session high of 765.75 against the dollar yesterday. It's its strongest level that's been hit since September last year. What did you make of the strength that's filtered through to the local unit, with risk appetite seeming to be on in a big way for now at least?
Well, yesterday we did see at the beginning of the trading session that the rand weakened, but after the steady flow of global data which came out better than expected, we saw that move towards better levels. We did see the rand break through the 770 levels, and it really was an indication that, or rather the better than expected data that came out really relaxed some of the fears about the global economic recovery, as well as the fears that Europe could possibly be crippled for the next while. So the mood is still fairly risk on, but towards the end of the day we could see that the rand being pressured somewhat on the back of the fact that there isn't really a lot of data coming out from the global economy or for South Africa for that matter. Yeah. We do expect the rand to trade within the range that it has been, and the next move was possibly towards 760. But for the moment, as I mentioned before, we could see the rand coming a little bit more pressure today.
It's interesting again, and we touched on it yesterday, just what the market chooses to hinge on a daily basis, Shireen, because yes, for the most part, we had economic data coming in positive yesterday, and that in the form of PMI numbers out of China, out of Europe as well. Out of the US, it was good, but certainly lower than expected. And then we had the ADP report out of the US coming through in a negative light as well.
Yes, Alishia, we had those better than expected numbers for the PMIs across the globe, and that really boosted sentiment worldwide. However, the data coming out of the United States wasn't as good as expected. Yes, the PMI data did come in a little lower than expected, but it was still fairly high. But the ADP employment report did show a fairly slow job creation in the United States. But the market seems to be really taking its cue from what's happening as far as data releases are concerned, and the balance really weighed in favor of the better than expected PMI data, and not so much the bleaker data coming out of the United States. Today, for instance, as I mentioned before, there's not a lot of data coming out of the global economy, so it really seems as if the attention is again going to be focused on the Eurozone and talks coming out of there.
Yeah, just taking a look at our performance relative to our compatriots. I mean, we were the best. We came through as the best performer amongst the 20 emerging market currencies that are monitored by Reuters in yesterday's session. And many saying we've had emerging markets in general performing well because of the attractive yields that are put on the table relative to, for example, US interest rates. There's hardly any earnings there. How are we faring against our emerging market compatriots at this stage, Shireen?
Well, as you mentioned, the rand has been the best performing currency in terms of emerging market currencies. We're seeing the Mexican peso, the Brazilian real, the Polish zloty, and the Hungarian forint all really posting good gains against the dollar. So it's not really a matter of rand strength, but more a story of dollar weakness, and we're expecting that to come through for the next couple of days as well. So the emerging market currencies have really been performing more or less in line with what the rand has been.
Before we let you go, let's hone in on the bit of economic data that's coming through in South Africa today, and that in the form of those vehicle sales numbers. Expectations there?
Well, we do expect the number to come in fairly robust. January is a seasonally strong month for vehicle sales, but we also have to bear in mind that in December last year, Daimler pulled out of the reporting to NAAMSA, so it's really going to be impacted by that number as well. Mercedes-Benz contributes about 4% to total vehicle sales, so we're going to see some pressure coming through from there. But generally, January is a much stronger month in terms of vehicle sales.